Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you will please be seated. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, would you now please give your attention to the taiko drummers with their mighty Japanese drums. Taiko drumming is an art form which originated in Japan, where it's played in shrines, kabuki and no theatre, outdoor summer festivals and big stages. It's now spread round the world, and we're delighted it's reached the Crowne Plaza and the SPAA Centenary dinner in Glasgow. Please give them a warm welcome. Well, our most grateful thanks to the Tsuchi Gumo Daiku Japanese drummers.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the President of the SPAA, Joanne Dewey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Centenary SPAA dinner. We've a lot to get through tonight, as usual, so I would firstly like to thank those companies who are helping us tonight to make the dinner a memorable occasion with their generous sponsorship. Thank you to the Crown Plaza for hosting the pre-dinner drinks. Thank you to Classic Collection for sponsoring the Thistles on Your Place setting, and of course thank you to Air France, KLM for continuing to sponsor the Whisky on Your Tables. To celebrate this special centenary dinner, you will find a gift on your table, an inscribed bottle stopper, which we hope you will find it will be very useful for you and you can put it to good use. The after party will be sponsored by Gold Medal, and in case you're still feeling hungry, we again thank DFDS for those bacon rolls to keep us going into the early hours of the morning. Now, as tradition demands, I'd like to introduce you to our top table. So firstly, I would like to start to take my introductions with Mike Tibbert, my Vice President and General Manager, Europe and for Global Marine Travel. At our SPAA Rewards virtual ceremony last year, Mike became known as an extra for Downtown Abbey. You would never know why. And he's looking resplendent in his downtown costume tonight again. Thank you, Mike. Next to Mike, we have Nick Johnson. Nick is an account manager in Leisure and Caribbean team and has worked for Virgin Atlantic Airways for 14 years. Whilst Nick has assumed numerous roles within the airline, which have included crew training, he's more recently, in the last 4 years, worked in TMC groups and loyalty before moving into his latest role. So welcome, Nick. Next to Nick, we have Gordon Dewar, CEO of Edinburgh Airport. He's a very well-known personality, and I'm sure he will entertain us as our main speaker. So more about Gordon later. I have to say, but I remember him appearing on stage at one of our awards evenings a few years ago, making a presentation wearing a pair of white feather wings over his dinner suit. So our dinner convener for the last number of years hails from the famous Coley family, a family steeped in talent in many ways and who continue to do great work for the Asian community locally as well as the entertainment business. There is no one better to convene tonight's dinner, our very own Aman Coley. Next to Aman, we have Raj Coley. Well, what can we say? But the SPAA has always been a leader in the travel industry. And now you have an exclusive, as we can introduce that today we have, if you have watched Line of Duty, this is H. We are delighted that Raj was able to complete the hat trick of the 3 Coley brothers, and more about him later. Finally, we have our SPAA social convener, Gail Gordon, who for many years was involved with SPAA, building up the youth side of the SPAA, and in fact, she was the winner of the SPAA Young Personality of the Year some years ago, may I add? Sorry. Sorry. We need to get that back going again, don't we? Having moved from her native Highlands, Gail is now based in Glasgow as the Customer Relations Manager at Clyde Travel Management. Thank you, Gail. Finally, I was hoping to welcome a total of 11 past presidents of the SPAA to the dinner tonight, but unfortunately some have had to cancel at the last minute. So we are left with 7. I would also like to take the time to pay tribute to a selection of some well-known people that we have lost since our last dinner, and they include the following. Callum Grant, owner of McRae's Travel in Nairn. Jim Doyle, owner of Jim Doyle Travel in Wishaw. Jimmy Caldo, who was an extremely well-known character from Thomas Cook in Gordon Street. And many stories will be remembered by some of the past presidents tonight. Ian Lee, or Broken Arrow, as he was known, and who worked for British Airways for many years. They are all very sadly missed. I'm now going to call on Mike Tibbert to read out the telegrams. Mike.
Okay, so I'd like to start by this first one, which says, the SPAA has played a great part in my life since I joined this fantastic industry 62 years ago in 1959. But never has it played a more important role than in the last 18 months. All the past presidents, men and women, will be very proud of the achievements made despite the desperate circumstances. Congratulations on reaching the 100th anniversary. I will raise a glass with you tonight to celebrate, and all being well, we'll see you at the next annual dinner. And that was from Alistair Tannehill, who was the past secretary of the SPA. The next one, President Joe, I cannot tell you how sad and upset I am not to be there tonight, sitting with the other old fogies, enjoying a glass of red Spanish, I hope, wine. But unfortunately, because of COVID, I have had to put the health of my family first. Who would have ever thought that an association of like-minded travel people would survive and flourish to see 100 years, but that is what the SPAA has achieved. Over the years, we have fought many a battle, from British Airways to the major tour operators, but never did we envisage the battle that was faced the industry over the last 18 months. But we embraced the challenge, and by God, hasn't the SPAA been a shining beacon? I cannot express enough my admiration for you and the whole council for the work that they have put into fighting the travel industry corner. It has been amazing. I know, Madam President, am I allowed to say that? That this presidency was not what you had in mind when you agreed to become our president. But you have done the association proud and the whole of the Scottish travel industry proud. Again, I am so sorry not to be there tonight, but I know in true SPA spirit, you will have a wonderful and memorable evening. That was Jerry McPhillips, past president and dinner convener. The next message comes from past presidents Roddy McPhee and Duncan Cameron. Many congratulations on the memorable occasion of celebrating the centenary of the association and the annual dinner. Both Duncan and I are so sorry to miss sharing this special celebration with our friends and colleagues in the industry. Very best wishes to all in what we are sure will be such an enjoyable evening. See you all at the next dinner when the association will be 101. So thank you, Roddy, and thank you, Duncan. The next one goes on, so many memories of past dinners and a few blanks. I'm sure it will be a fantastic night, and who would have thought the SPAA would reach the 100-year milestone? Although I feel I have probably attended most of the 100 dinners, I'm sorry to miss such a special one and wish you all a great evening. And remember, if there are no sore heads in the morning, it means it wasn't that good. Past President Dennis Hart. Sorry that I cannot be there, but I may, if I may, take this opportunity of wishing the SPA a very happy 100th anniversary, and here is to the next 100 years. And that's from Clive Ratton, CEO of the Business Travel Association. Hi, Joanne, and everyone at the dinner. Sorry I can't be with you all tonight celebrating our wonderful industry and the 100 years of the SPAA, as I am on a work trip. Have a wonderful evening, and please know I will be toasting you all. Joanne, you will be amazing as always. Very best wishes and lots of love. Roseanne Ratter, or Rosie. Roseanne, the Holiday Inn Fright Inn. Joanne, sorry I couldn't make it this evening, but awaiting PCR test result coming through. This will be a very emotional night for you, but like everything else you have done throughout your presidency, you will do a great job. I believe nobody could have been a better president of SPA during this pandemic. So proud of you, girl. Enjoy this special night. Your friend, Linda Boyd, Stewart Travel. And finally, Joanne, I can't believe that I will not be heading to the dinner to celebrate the centenary of the SPAA. I can only but blame the Australian government and their lockdown policy. There are many things that have changed over the years, but fortunately for some of us of an older generation, we still have the great memories of the glory days. Wishing you all a tremendous evening of friendship and camaraderie, and I'm sure there will be some who will be nursing a hangover tomorrow morning. Lindsay White, ex-British Airways and Etihad.
Thank you, Mike. And now with the opening formalities over, can I now ask the Reverend Sandy McPherson, as our sort of honorary chaplain to the association, if he will say the Selkirk Grace.
Let's pray. As we gather together to dine here tonight, to celebrate our centenary, it seems only right, for we look back over 100 momentous years, lots of fun and laughter, maybe some tears. 1921 seems a very long time ago, it's true. As time has passed, we've kept up with all that is new. For our members and industry, we've done our best, no more than now, in times which are a test. Be with us now, we pray, as we eat, drink, and make merry, whether we're in retail, air, hotel, cruising, or ferry. These tough times will sooner or later go away, so bless the SPA's next 100 years, we pray. And in the words of our national bard, some hae meat and canna eat, and some hae nane that want it, but we hae meat and we can eat, and say the Lord be thanked. Amen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, dinner will now be served. Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you please to be upstanding to welcome the haggis?
for, ye honest sonsy face, great chieftain o' the puddin' race. Abun them all you tak your place, pain, stripe or therm. O are ye worthy o a grace as lang as me erum? The groaning trenchers there ye fill. Your hurdies like a distant hill. Your peen would help to mend a mill in time of need. And through your pores, the dews distill like amber bead. His knife, see rustic, labour dick, and cut ye up with ready slick. Ooh, trenching and gushing entrails brick like ony ditch. And oh, what a glorious sight. Warm, reeking, rich. Then horn by horn you stretch and strive, you'll tack the hindmost on a drive, till all well swallowed kites belive are bent like drums. Then all good men must like to rive, be thankatums. Is there that o'er his French ragout, or ollie o that would stow a sou, or fricassee that would mook or spew with perfect scunner, looks down with sneering, scornful view on such a dinner. Poor devil, see him o'er his trash, as feckless as a withered rash, his shindles shank a good whiplash, his neve in it, through bloody flooder field to dash, oh how unfit. But Mark, the rustic, haggis fed, the trembling earth resounds his tread, clamping his wally, neva blade, he'll mak it whistle, and legs and arms and heads so sned, like taps of thistle. Ye powers that gie mankind your care, and dish them out their bill of fare, old Scotland wants nae skinking wares like japs and luggies, but if you wish a grateful prayer, gie her a haggis. To the haggis, toast the haggis. Woo.
Well done.
Yep. I don't know about that. Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to join me in the loyal toast. Her Majesty the Queen, to the Queen. Okay. Okay, you can all be seated. Thank you so much. I'm now very pleased to be able to recognise the significant contribution to someone who has been involved with the SPAA for many years and who has been involved on the dinner committee for the last 22 years. He has tirelessly kept us right and personally guided me for many years and given us sound advice on so many occasions. And so we're very happy to bestow on the person tonight the SPAA honorary membership. This is not something that we do very often, but we felt the honour was so well deserved. The person concerned, and I would like him to come up, is of course Tim Rolson. Please come up and receive your badge, Tim. Well deserved, darling.
Thank you very much.
Well deserved. Couldn't have done it without you. Could I have a photograph?
Camera or whatever.
Yeah. Woo!
Well, many congratulations indeed, Tim. And now, it's our great pleasure to introduce two sisters who are dancers from the Melanie Mackay School of Highland Dance. Cara and Jenna Wilson will entertain us with several of the most popular dances from the country areas of Scotland. You may remember seeing these young ladies in the Centenary Year preview, but tonight they are here in person. Please give them a very warm welcome. Tonight, the young ladies will start with a dance devised by soldiers in the First World War, which is often featured at dancing competitions. It's always danced to the famous tune of the same name, so please encourage the young ladies by clapping and cheering as they dance to Heel and Laddie. And now Jenna will follow with one of the oldest of the national dances, which is said to recall the days of Bonnie Prince Charlie and his flight after the defeat of his Jacobite army at Culloden in 1746. The prince was helped by Flora MacDonald, and she's said to have danced this to please the prince as he fled from his pursuers. It's also reputed to be the last dance Flora MacDonald danced for him, but it's more likely just to be a dance named in her honour. This is Flora MacDonald's Fancy. Well, the next dance by Cara is another which harks back to the days of Bonnie Prince Charlie and the Jacobites' doomed attempt to capture the throne of Great Britain by force of arms in 1745. After the Battle of Culloden the following year, the young Chevaliers' Highland supporters were forbidden to wear the kilt, and Sean Trews, which means old trousers in Scottish Gaelic, was said to be the only dance they would do in trousers, and the movement of the arms is said to represent the Highlanders' dismissal of the Hanoverian British. The Scottish lilt exemplifies national dances with its grace, heavily influenced by ballet. It's an unusual dance because it only has 6 beats per measure rather than the standard 8. The Scottish lilt has several recognized steps that can be used in competition and exhibitions like this evening. So both Cara and Jenna will show us the Scottish lilt. A wonderful display of how it should be done from Cara and Jenna Wilson, who will return in half an hour. Please give them our very warm thanks for a wonderful display.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, if you will. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, There will now follow a short 15-minute comfort break. Could I ask, please, that all guests are back in their seats no later than 9:35. It's 15 minutes comfort break. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you please to be upstanding to welcome back your President and her top table guests. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you will please be seated. Thank you.
Well, I rather thought you enjoyed the young ladies before the break, so it's time to welcome them back again. And tonight, to welcome them back with a dance which shows young women trying to catch the attention and flirt with a blue bonnet, which is an old slang for Scotsmen, because they wore blue hats. So please welcome back Jenna and Cara Wilson. Well, the blue bonnet was a type of soft woolen hat that for several hundred years was the customary working wear of Scottish labourers and farmers. Although a particularly broad, flat form was associated with the Scottish lowlands, the bonnet was also worn in parts of northern England and the Scottish Highlands. So now, Cara and Jenna will dance for you Blue Bonnets. Well, Jenna's next dance Wilt Thou Go to the Barracks, Johnny, is an old recruiting dance. In bygone years, a recruiting officer would go into a village with a dancer as entertainment or to attract people to his temporary recruiting station. Each regiment was reputed to have its own dance, but this is the only one still widely practiced, and it comes from Aberdeen. Wilt thou go to the barracks, Johnny? Cara's next dance, the Earl of Errol, was originally a dance performed in hard shoes, which was choreographed for the Earl of Errol. Errol was a village on the north side of the River Tay, about halfway between Dundee and Perth. Although the dance may look quite easy, it is in reality one of the hardest national dances to perform well. The Earl of Errol. Cara and Jenna will finish with the oldest of the traditional dances of Scotland. It's a dance of joy performed at the end of a victorious battle. It was danced by male warriors over a small round shield called a targe that the warriors carried. Most targes had a sharp steel spike projecting from the center, so the dancers learned quickly to move with great skill and dexterity. It's also said to be based on the antics of a stag on a hillside, the grouped fingers and upheld arms representing the antlers. So you can take your pick as which is the right origin. But this is the Highland Fling. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been treated to a wonderful display of energy and elegance tonight from Cara and Jenna Wilson. Please give them a very warm thanks indeed.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, to propose the toast to world travel and tourism, would you please again welcome your President, Joanne Dewey.
Please raise your glass to world of travel and tourism. Okay, here goes. SPAA past presidents, SPAA Council, members of the Scottish Parliament, fellow trade and supplier colleagues, as your President, I welcome you all warmly to the Centenary Scottish Passenger Agents Association annual dinner. Take on the presidency, they said, and you'll have to keep our aims and objectives as relevant today as they were in 1921. Following the footsteps of 100 years of SPAA presidents, help us safeguard Scottish travel interests, facilitate the discussions and resolutions of travel-related problems. No one, at any time, not a soul, mentioned a global pandemic which would bring travel to a standstill and devastate all of our businesses. There was also no mention that I'd be experiencing a lot of early mornings on BBC radio and TV news programmes, including being asked to tiptoe through the tulips in my back garden for one memorable interview. But we're here tonight to celebrate 100 years of the SPAA. But boy, oh boy, do I feel 100 after this shift and everything that we've came through, but I'm sure I'm not alone. The SPAA annual dinner, or February dinner, as it has been well known for many years, has always been held at the same time, except when due to the Beast of the East, it was held in April 2018. but never did we envisage that we would be having this dinner in September. COVID-19 has had a massive effect on us all, and not on all of our businesses. But can I take a moment tonight to pass on our sincere condolences to everyone who's lost friends or family to this dreadful virus. Our thoughts are with you all. We've also sadly lost many, many good people from our industry through redundancies and people being laid off. As we build back, we hope to see lots of these talented individuals return to our industry. We want them back. We need them back. Their expertise and experience is vital to build back stronger and to capitalise on all future opportunities. The association was founded back in 1921, and I take huge pride in the traditions and the values of this dinner, which brings together everyone that has a vested passion for travel and tourism, together to celebrate, exchange, and respect their contribution through discussion. If you look at the programme, you can reflect on the aims and objectives set out 100 years ago and see how relevant they were then. They still are today. Travel, they say, is the only thing you can buy that makes you richer. It is the heartbeat of our industry. It transports and connects continents and cultures. It enables commerce. It exchanges ideas. It explores and develops long-term relationships and friendships. And it connects and reconnects families living abroad. It is without question that the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has all but taken the heartbeat out of our industry and reduced it to a murmur. As our world as we know it closed its borders to try and control the pandemic, the actions of each and every nation was to safeguard the health of their country. But with these measures, travel and tourism was effectively closed. No one was allowed to take an extended journey outside of supporting essential travel. We have all worked harder than ever before, but sadly, it has not made us richer. During the pandemic, for many of us, we are a great deal poorer. As well as new vocabulary, we've all learned some hard lessons. We've all learned that partnerships and support are key. As Oprah Winfrey once said, lots of people want to ride with you in the limo, but you want someone who will take the bus with you when the limo breaks down. I could let you have figure after figure of the impact of lost revenues and employment. It's sad to say that these figures have all but fallen on deaf ears. The travel sector has been the worst hit industry of all, and we have seen passenger numbers fall to below 10% of previous years. We have all had to adapt our businesses to be able to work remotely from home, become experts as operators, as agents, at moving holidays to future dates, trying everything possible to retain bookings rather than refunding. We became masters of processing refunds and credit notes, and maestros of repatriation. And we've had to learn a new language and a set of phrases. Unprecedented times. How many times have we said that? Furlough, which unfortunately is coming to an end. Lockdown, social distancing, quarantine versus isolation, antigens and antibodies. The severity of this impact has not been felt just by the travel agents, it's also by the whole supply chain. At all times, the consumer has been fully protected, and rightly so. So both agent and supplier managed to process of refund and reprotection. The magnitude of this undertaking was immense due to the sheer scale of the issue. The greatest challenge was in the process of refunding an every daily changing policy driven by the suppliers, of which the consumer had little interest and was just looking for their money back. Our priority is to our customers, and this loyalty came at a significant cost in resource and time, with no incentive, and it also came at the cost of our well-being. So what have we learnt in the past 18 months? What will lead our industry into better times? And although it is widely acknowledged that the recovery will be slow and prolonged for consumer confidence to return, and for the corporate sector to step away from technology and return to face-to-face again, we must build in a better way. Partnerships and support is key, as well as to try to rebuild our businesses. It's acknowledged that the importance of transparent communication and discussion to find solutions through working together to understand each other is the common issue for all. We will aim to work together, respecting others' views, to find solutions. This was one of the objectives set out 100 years ago by William Bell as the first president of the SPAA. Never before have our members been so acutely aware of the suppliers who have helped them in their times of crisis. And believe me, moving forward, as we start to recover, these companies will not be forgotten, and they will reap the benefits of our members' support. Choosing your partner will be the key now more than ever. To those operators who answer the calls from direct customers quicker than agents' ones, leaving the agent hanging on the line for sometimes a lot longer than 4 hours, hang your head in shame. Gaining the confidence of the consumer is another focus for us. We must demonstrate that all practical steps and measures have been taken throughout the journey to minimise the risk and protect them. By giving this assurance and experience, it will encourage other consumers to travel. Our cruise market was first hit in 2019 when Diamond Princess was quarantined back in February. Lots of lessons have been learnt and intense studies have now taken place on the virus spread on the ship. To see this sector being one of the first to come back is very welcoming. Cruising is an industry that generates 2.5 billion to the UK economy, 23 million for the Scottish economy, and generates 74,000 jobs in the UK. It supports much needed tourism in the Orkney and Shetland Islands, and it employs hundreds of Scottish people. The UK cruising sector has been a lifeline this year for lots of us agents. It is heartening to see so many new ships coming into service. It fills us all with confidence. The cruise sector will play a vital role in the rebuilding of the Scottish economy. What we certainly don't need is flippant, headline-catching sound bites with no evidence to back them up from so-called experts such as the Scottish Government Health Advisor, David Schrader, who advised people at a recent public speaking event never to go on a cruise ship again. If David Schrader still believes that zero COVID is still achievable, then I think she is definitely delusional. We need to learn to live with this virus. It's not going away. We must trust in the vaccine and testing where needed. The cruise sector protocols are at the heart of their operations. I know this personally, having recently been on board MSC Virtuosa, and also earlier this year I was on Anthem of the Seas. From the start of the pandemic, we have lost our global connectivity as well, with the reduction of termination of flights. Let us support those who are returning as an urgency and resuming our connectivity, and for Scotland to be open for business in full flight mode. Over the past 10 years, Scotland has fought hard to secure the best ever level of connectivity via direct flights into Scotland, and before the pandemic they were sitting at the best levels they've ever seen. We have always punched above our weight. but we are now in grave danger of losing much-needed direct routes. The recent announcement from Virgin Atlantic about direct routes to Orlando and Barbados from Edinburgh, and also WestJet with their new flights to Canada from Glasgow and Edinburgh, are to be celebrated. But we need to see more airlines returning, and this will only be achieved if our government relaxes international travel rules and regulations. We need governments who are not colourblind. The complicated traffic light system needs to be scrapped. We should just have two colours, red for the real areas of risk and green, but green should mean green, with no testing for fully vaccinated travellers. We can only hope that drastic decisions and changes are made at the upcoming review of the Global Task Force later this month to address many of these issues. Why are we behind all our European counterparts? We have seen airlines pulling aircraft out of our Scottish airports. We all know the real issue if they do not return. They need to go to bases where they can fly from, a view that I'm sure Gordon Dewar will talk about in his speech. We've been pushing hard for changes in the cost of testing and the creation of digital passports with a Scottish aviation group chaired by Gordon Dewar. And we have finally got some success on testing by adding additional suppliers for Scottish travellers to use. But we are still lagging behind on the digital vaccination passport. And everything seems to be a battle. It seems that Scotland is often left as the last of the four nations to make any decisions to help travel restart. So to our Scottish politicians that are present tonight, the travel industry needs your help. Scotland needs your help. We need to see a full return to international flying. The fear factor driven by people in power needs to stop. We need to get Scotland back to business with safety protocols in place, which are simple and, more importantly, do not cost a fortune, to allow our industry to get some normality back. The consumer is our greatest ambassador to aid recovery. We need to educate them by making their travel experiences safe, pleasurable and memorable. We have to enable our staff also to be confident in selling to the consumer. We need to remove complexity and bring in simplicity with clear, consistent communication and process to support travel and not hinder it or prevent it. We have now been over 18 months with very little income and almost no sectoral support. This cannot continue. So we need to trust in the vaccine and allow freedom of movement. Travel has been one, if not the worst, hit industry during the pandemic. The recovery will not happen quickly. The limited government support offered has dried up long ago. The SPAA has fought hard for the industry for 100 years, and we've been fighting even harder over the past 18 months. Our daily updates of need-to-know information have been read and shared with thousands of people in the industry. The SPAA profile is at an all-time high, and we have, over the past 18 months, constantly been featured in newspapers, digital publications, and on broadcast media. From March to August this year, we featured in almost 400 of digital coverage, which was viewed by an estimated 10.8 million times. These articles were shared by more than 30,000 individuals on social media platforms. I've learnt a lot about dealing with media over the past few months. One important lesson was watch what you've got on the walls behind you on a virtual interview. I spent 3 minutes live on the BBC one night with half of the Sex Pistols' iconic album cover showing just above my head. And those like me of the punk generation, you'll know that that message was loud and clear. The SPAA has held 2 demonstrations at Holyrood to make our voices heard for support at the heart of the decision-making in Scotland. We've lost count of the letters that we have sent, the number of meetings that have taken place with Scottish MSPs and UK ministers. We've lived up to the mission of the Voice of Travel in Scotland, and we will continually do that loudly. We will keep up the fight for sectoral specific support. One really positive thing that has come out of the pandemic is that we are all working much closely together with other travel sectors. And we have joined together to forge alliances for lobbying governments, North and South, Save Future Coalition, Scottish Aviation Group, to name but a few. But these must continue as we build back. For the first time, we have worked closely with inbound tourism, and we all recognise that the economy needs inbound tourism as well as outbound. We will continue to work hand in hand as we need to grow this partnership. It would be a dream to have a single tourism minister who looked after travel under one umbrella and who understood the needs of both. We will carry on working in partnership with other sectors in our industry to get our voice heard as we build back, and we will build back. Whoever thought we would have favourite brands of sanitiser? Did you ever dream that the face mask would now become a fashion statement? And when was the last time you ever paid for anything in cash? A funny story that did actually happen to me. After the first lockdown, when we first reopened our shops, I was walking from the car park, and the usual character who sits around the corner from one of my shops in Lanarkshire, begging, asked me as I passed, "All right, Joanne, can you spare a few quid?" My reply, "Oh, I've no cash on me," to which he pulled out a small card machine and told me, "It's all right, I take cards now." I entered my shop in pure disbelief, and the staff looking at my face laughed and said, "Oh, I can tell you spoke to Davy out there. What about him having a card machine? I never thought I'd see the day." To make matters worse, on the Friday evening after we finished work, myself and the manager were walking to our cars, and he pipes up, "All right, ladies, is that you finished? Can I take you for a drink?" Looking at each other, we laughed. Yep, it is desperate. It is very desperate times, but we did kindly decline his offer. His reply to us, "Well, you know, I thought you might like to do this, seeing as I'm making more money than you are just now." Oh, how so true to be a travel agent in a pandemic. But throughout all of this, we have to look at the opportunities to build back, to be a better industry, and to continue on the other founding principles, and to continue to influence the Scottish interests. We want our future to be one that is sustainable, one where we work smarter, one which gives an opportunity to have price parity. And let's not forget APD. It's not gone away. And we sent a submission earlier this year recommending an APD holiday on all flights for 12 months. And at all, it's our view that the recent consultation was ill-timed and that the review should be shelved until trading conditions have improved, and then it should be considered in conjunction with the reform of the package travel regulations. And is the government ever going to produce its long-awaited review on airline insolvency? A simple levy would go a long way in solving this. For the last 20 years, every past president of the SPAA have called for this. But again, this also seems to have fallen on deaf ears. And to the operators and the airlines out there, support us, the owners of small businesses, It is the owners who have worked throughout this long period receiving no income and who have been trying everything to save their businesses and to keep their staff in jobs. We have not been able to furlough ourselves, and most of us had to work throughout the pandemic. To all the airlines and operators here tonight, please reevaluate how you distribute incentives and channel them appropriately. I have to remind myself sometimes on how great this industry is. And I know good times will come back again, and we will rekindle the love again. Our customers will rediscover the wanderlust that drives them to travel, explore and learn. Our industry has become ever more focused on sustainability, and the green credential is gaining momentum with the younger traveller, who will scrutinise this as they make their informed choice of agent and supplier that they book with. We know that different threads within our industry must shout louder about the steps they are taking to enable travel to re-emerge with much broader green credentials, and I know that Gordon will elaborate more about this in his speech on the steps being taken at Edinburgh Airport. Yes, this presidency has not been one that I expected or wished for, but I, for one, am very proud to be part of such an amazing association and to follow in the footsteps of some real travel legends named on the screens behind me. I hope in my time as President that I have supported the membership, safeguarding Scottish interests, and have done my best to steer us through one of the worst times our industry has ever seen. Together, let's give our beloved travel and tourism industry back its strong heartbeat. In 2020, our hands have had more alcohol than our mouths. So let's raise our glasses and say cheers to better times coming in the second century. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you. I would now like to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Gordon Dewar. Gordon took up the post of Chief Executive in July 2012 with Edinburgh Airport. Growth in passengers reached 14.7 million in 2019, a record for any Scottish airport. Gordon rebranded the airport as the place where Scotland meets the world and has worked tirelessly to steer the airport through the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring it stayed open throughout and working with government to seek operational solutions for the recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Gordon Dewar.
Thank you, Joanne. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. May I start by thanking you all for coming out tonight. This is the first proper dinner and the first proper meeting of friends I've been for 18 months. I'm sure that's true for many of you. So thank you for being early adopters of getting back out to normal. And as Joanne's actually just said everything I was going to say in the next 15 minutes, thanks very much. So, No, but seriously, let me start by congratulating you on your Centenary year. That truly is a remarkable milestone. And normally in that light, you'd be out every night, out to celebrate all of the fantastic year you've had, waving off millions of passengers on business trips, family reunions, golf outings, research journeys, and of course, holidays. But tonight, instead, it's probably a good time to come together and show support and solidarity for each other. Share our issues over a drink or 10. talk about some of the small positive signs that we can see, and dream perhaps about our own foreign holidays in the months to come. And I was delighted to be asked to be your keynote speaker, and I didn't hesitate to accept. Not that anyone hesitates when Janice Hogarth has your home phone number, by the way. But now, as many of you know, Janice is not someone to fob off. She's hugely impressive, talented, and has made a massive impact on the Scottish travel trade, and indeed Edinburgh Airport's own consultative committee. The way she's driven your agenda, communicated ideas, and never settled for second best can only be described truly as tenacious. Now, what some of you might not know is that in early years, Janice's nickname was the Genie, because she always miraculously appeared whenever a bottle was opened. But those qualities in Janice are the same qualities displayed by your SPA Council in general. They've all fought valiantly throughout this pandemic to be the voice of travel and rightly raise the issues this important industry face. And Joanne just summarised so many of them. Joanne has been a regular on radio and TV, becoming such a well-kent face, I predict a part in River City beckons very soon. And she's represented the SPA with grace and determination, taking the plight of you, her members, to the very, very top of Scottish Government. Now, that's a thankless task, because it opens you up to the goons on social media. And I know that Joanne has unfortunately been the target of some terrible abuse because she dared to stand up for her passion and our livelihoods. Now, I know how that feels because I've also been the target of social media trolling, but I'm still not giving you discounts, so stop it. But seriously, Joanne has been an important voice in this debate, as has Alan Glenn, Mike Tibbert, Jacqueline Dobson, to name just a few of the collective SPA voices that we've heard representing our interests over the past 18 months. And I invite you now to show your appreciation for all that they've done. But I want to talk to you tonight about the future. I don't want to dwell particularly on COVID, although you can't avoid it, but I'm sure we're all sick to the back teeth of it. I want to reflect a little bit about what's happened, but also want to talk about the things that are firing us up at Edinburgh Airport, and look forward to how we can collectively come out of this ordeal in a much stronger place. Now, I realise the anxieties we all have about being in crowds, although we've obviously beaten that fear tonight at this delicate time, but it truly warms the heart to see this vital industry come together. It's great to be in Glasgow, to talk, to meet, to laugh and have fun. After all, where would we be without laughter? Aberdeen. Now, sorry. Now, this gathering and this group of people was truly exceptional. There's more, trust me. This gathering, this group of people is exceptional. 2020 and 2021 have not been. How can you sum up the years that we've just had? The global pandemic, collapsing industries, lockdowns, empty shelves, no culture, no leadership. Brexit, Boris, the return of ABBA. And despite all of that, we still managed to film another series of Love Island. Hideous. It's clear to us all, 20 and 21 have been the two of the worst years ever. But, ever the data guy, I looked for evidence of how bad it is by Googling, is 2021 the worst year ever? And I'm happy to be the bearer of good news. It's not by a long shot. Here's some contenders. 1348. When over a third of the population of Europe was decimated by the Black Plague, was worse. Last century had a number of years vying for the title: the carnage of the trenches in 1916, the horrors of Second World War in 1943, 1986, when Hearts should have won the League and Cup double, but collapsed at Dundee and Hampden in 8 very sorrowful days. The stuff of nightmares. My personal favourite is 72,000 BC, when a volcanic super explosion covered the Earth with ash, creating conditions very similar to a nuclear winter, which lasted hundreds of years, reducing the human race to about 3,000 cold, shivering, terrified people. Not Prestwick passengers, no, but the forefathers of the current 7 billion people on the planet today. If that doesn't give us hope, I'm really not sure what will. But when we come together in the future, we will reminisce, but we'll not talk about the times when everything went okay. Remember the day that everything went as planned is not the best start to an anecdote. We'll talk about these times, and though it doesn't feel like it now, we'll laugh and try to outdo each other with tales of testing, of disruption, and toilet roll wars. That's a very Scottish way of dealing with adversity. Scotland, this great country as ever, thumbs its nose at these things. It's as if this ancient land of ours, a country that prospered through all of that, is wiser than us. It's seen fashions come and go. It's seen terrible things. Wars, disease, poverty, persecution, Jimmy Martin's hair. As well as successes, the Enlightenment, cultural explosions, educational excellence, sporting triumphs, affluence, and yes, for those with dodgy taste, Jimmy Martin's hair. It tells us not to wallow in the negativity, self-pity, or frustration, but it looks, as citizens here have done for thousands of years, at the opportunities in front of us. Now, I realise that can be difficult. And one of the most baffling and disheartening things that I've had to do in the period of pandemic is dealing with the Scottish Government. Your own Janice Hogarth represented your great organisation in some of the very same conversations. Now, dealing with clinicians in charge of border control at Scottish Government made me think of Amy Winehouse. We tried to get a plan for COVID, but they said, no, no, no. Now, I think I can safely say they have been some of the most frustrating meetings of my life. And I've been interviewed by Alistair Dalton. Now, he's the transport reporter from the Scotsman, and not a man known for his positive spin in a headline. A man who, when he reported on Neil Armstrong landing on the moon, headlined with, "The event lacked atmosphere." I mean, the Scottish Government policy seems to be for us to have a more draconian policies than elsewhere to stop importation of the variants that we, at least in part, exported in the first place. To stop us with high COVID rates visiting places with low COVID rates, while laying waste to entire sectors, yourselves being in front of that list, and ensuring a recovery is behind all of our neighbours, not just the UK, but across Europe as a whole. And add to that a large degree of complexity and uncertainty, sprinkle in a last-minute change or two to ensure that the passengers have genuinely no confidence or indeed a clue what's going to happen next. And all the while our less draconian neighbour, with whom we share an open border of course, is seeing all of our passengers land there and travel up with identical COVID risks, and yet the known certainty that that is doing economic harm and costing jobs. And my favourite, the latest big announcement, after months of asking, is that we're going to stop insisting on the most expensive NHS test and instead open up the option of having slightly less expensive tests, when most of the Europe is already requiring no test at all. So going from last to joint last appears to be this government's aspiration. But of course, I do understand the medical imperative. As an airport, safety is our first concern at all times, no matter what. But it's difficult not to come to the conclusion that with a little bit more engagement, a little bit more collaboration, some listening and support, we could have saved a lot more jobs along the way. We could have had far smaller overdrafts, and we could have been a better start point to go forward and rebuild again. But there is light in the darkness. Now, it might be a 60-watt LCD bulb somewhere between Saturn and Jupiter, but it is light nonetheless. And in our darkest times, the team and I talked at length about how to build bridges with government, to look beyond COVID, to try and plot a path forward we could build and travel together. Whilst we're annoyed at the approach to COVID and will continue to press for plans for engagement, for partnership, that can't be all we discuss. The challenges before us are really far, far too big and require a collective approach. And it's here that I think the opportunity lies, for you and for us, for the airlines and importantly, for the government themselves. Because just as much as we can't meet their sustainability, our sustainability obligations alone, they can't meet theirs without us. And Scotland requires everyone to work together to achieve a better future. A cleaner and greener future is a goal we all share, and it's incumbent upon all of us to play our part. So why is this important? Why is this important now? Well, it could be easy for us to think that we should prioritise recovery and recovery alone. We could place sustainability on the side in a box marked nice to do, but not yet. We could do that, but we won't do that. Because as we begin to face the first shards of light in a potential recovery from COVID-19, we should be looking at how we recover better and how we plan to tackle the immediate recovery we face, as well as look to the longer-term future. Now, in terms of Edinburgh Airport in Scotland, our recovery will be important to many people and businesses across the country, as it is with you. We are a facilitator for an economy on the tip of an island off the northwest fringe of Europe. Travel is essential, whether that's connecting with family, forging business links, or transporting medical and cargo supplies. And of course, that connectivity itself brings employment, economic wealth, migration, cultural diversity, global influence even, and competitiveness, and yes, of course, allows holidays and tourism. All things of the utmost importance to a country like Scotland, not only now, but in the future and for the long term. As a result, we've come up with a sustainability strategy that realises we have to act for the greater good, which is the name that we've given that strategy. It's built on a really simple premise. Scottish aviation must be sustainable in order for it to continue to deliver the benefits this country derives from it without compromising future generations. To us, sustainability involves linking societal and economic and environmental issues through collaboration, innovation and partnership, all working in concert for the greater good. Now, this is important because we believe that a strong aviation sector providing great connectivity is for the greater good of Scotland. As an airport, we're pleased to become carbon neutral this year and announced our intention to become the first Scottish airport to build a solar farm on its own grounds. In fact, we believe we're the first airport in the world to build a solar farm of scale within the perimeter of an airport. We have ambitious plans to reduce emissions, and our sustainability goals will take us well into the future. Now, in the first few years of this greater good plan, we'll fire through growth that took us 10 years previously and 2 or 3 to get back to 2019 levels, and the connectivity that comes with it. And as we do, we'll arrive back there better than when we left it, with less carbon, and I hope an enhanced engagement and a shared vision about how we go forward from there. So we have a plan. We have commitments. We have an idea of that trajectory about how we're going to travel that path. And I'm sure you do too. We've all had time to think about it, if nothing else. Too often when an airport or an airline or travel agent talks about sustainability, the first thing we hear from others is, but aviation, followed by a number of reasons and preconceived notions about why all aviation is bad or wrong for the environment. Now, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's even reasonable, and actually I don't think it's very smart. Where aviation is so important for so many things in our society, and where we know solutions for carbon-free aviation will be with us within 15 to 25 years, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's particularly unhelpful if you propose tax-based or punitive restrictions as a single country in the most international market and that has the most transportable of all assets, which are aircraft. But equally, ignoring the problem or underplaying that challenge or waiting will not work either. What the industry needs, perhaps what Scotland as a country needs more than most, is a bridge between our current carbon-based technology and our carbonless aviation future. A bridge that minimises their impact now in surprising, perhaps welcomed ways. But there is a frustrating pattern in the past where environmental charities and activists will not speak with the aviation industry or the oil and gas industry. Only last week we were told by a charity that dealing with airports was a red line, as if closing your eyes and wishing for a different world was going to get any results. Now, I hope that Scotland can rise above that level of debate. Much has been made of the new coalition, that's apparently not a coalition, between the SNP and the Green Party, and many of my friends have been pulling my leg regarding how bad that is for us. But I don't think it is. The portfolios for both Green ministers cover a number of areas that we're already working in. We're glad they're being recognised at ministerial level, and we hope to be able to tell both Ms Slater and Mr Harvey what we've been doing and see if we can actually work together for the greater good. I've written to them both saying exactly that. Now, in the past, Green politicians have refused to meet us despite repeated invitations. But let's not look back. Let's take this as a turning point. Let's make this a start of a new relationship with Green politicians as ministers can meet with business to work in partnership for Scotland. I look forward to it. So what will we be saying when we meet Patrick Harvey and Ms Slater? What will we be saying to them and others? What might the bridge to that future carbon-free connectivity look like? I don't think it needs to be complex, but it does need to be widely supported and embraced. For example, imagine this idea. Let us, as Scotland's travel industry, take responsibility for some or all of the aviation carbon emitted while our customers are in the air. We know that airlines can't take all that pain themselves, and they would argue, why should they, when we all benefit from what they do? But that burden is surprisingly small if it's shared much wider. Believe it or not, it's less than £5 at the cost of carbon for a European flight on average. Now, let us say that over time we could find ways to collect funds to meet that carbon so every passenger flying to and from Scotland could do it carbon neutrally. We can then go further and say that not only would we meet the cost, but we could generate some of the most exciting and inclusive carbon reduction schemes right here in Scotland, schemes that show leadership that other countries might actually follow. We could create that concept in a very simple way by setting a higher value of carbon for our travel trade scheme that would help others invest in projects that would otherwise not happen. Say 30 or 40 pounds per tonne of carbon saved. Now, I know it's late at night and I'm getting into this economic argument that might seem a bit strange and ethereal, but you can't get your arms around. And it could be criticised as another offset scheme that people just say avoids the problem. But I don't think so if the projects we invest in are right here in Scotland and you can go and see them and you can audit and ensure the results. Not if they start to solve problems that no one else has got the answer to. Not if this brings a true measure of consistent and growing investment where we make rational and measured Scottish-based decisions to focus on reducing true emissions rather than posturing for some eye-catching but perhaps less effective one-off scheme that spends far, far too much money for the true carbon that it saves. Now, what might these projects look like? Of course, they're going to include well-trodden but proven paths of planting trees, of reef foresting, Caledonian forest and peat bogs. They should absolutely include all the projects that we can make economically sensible within our own businesses and our own supply chains and our own sites. One of the strongest arguments we've made for our solar farm ourselves. But this could go so much further. What about investing in solar for schools or hospitals? What about heat pumps or insulation for council and affordable housing that might otherwise never be addressed? What about direct investments in new decarbonising research in Scottish universities and businesses? Now, as long as aviation and travel is attributed the benefits of these carbon savings, this would be real and meaningful, a true bridge to our carbon-free aviation future as the new technology on aircraft is developed in parallel. Now, the reason I'm excited with this is I believe it could have a real impact, is that here target after target being announced with ever-reducing timeframes to meet that net zero delivery. But the actual list of practical interventions, projects and policies is remarkably short because there simply isn't a focused revenue-driven strategy with an aligning concept we can all get behind. People just don't know what to do. It's not a lack of willingness, it's a lack of direction. So let's change that conversation. Let's take the lead and map out a greener way of travelling because we all depend upon it. Let's change that debate and let the next sentence that follows, but aviation, be about the initiatives and the suggestions we've come up with to let Scotland achieve net zero status and lead the thinking in Europe and beyond. Because the enemy here is not carbon. Sorry, the enemy here is carbon, it's not aviation. It's not the international student choosing to study here. It's not the hard-earned family break in Tenerife. It's not the flight to close the vital deal to bring investment into Scotland. And it's certainly not the grandparents seeing their grandchild for the first time or the family moving to Scotland for a better life. Our industry, the people in this room, facilitate all of this. Connectivity is part of the arteries that pump blood to what is to be a modern Scotland. So to finish, we have a chance now, as we come out of COVID, to make a case for travel framed in that sustainable future. What can your business, our industry, commit to make a real difference to the sustainability of Scottish aviation and travel, to impress politicians of all hues, and to make sure that the Scotland of 2050 or 2100 enjoys the same opportunities we all did in 2019? Now, I'm willing to put all our energy behind finding that industry solution, standing together as we have done in these dark times going forward. Are you? Thank you for all that you do, your resilience, your optimism, and of course, this wonderful hospitality. Here's to another 100 years of your great organisation, and if you join me in a toast, I give you SPAA.
Thank you, Gordon, for what was a most interesting and entertaining speech, as I expected it would be. Your view on travel in the future is something that we're all looking forward to. happening. And please accept this gift from the SPAA to thank you for your contribution to the dinner tonight. It's a quake.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now call upon from Coley Travel, Aman Coley, to introduce your next speaker. Thank you.
I'm delighted to welcome Raj tonight to the dinner. We've had already in past dinners two of the amigos. We had Sanjeev Kohli from Still Game, and we have Hardeep Kohli. So to complete the trilogy, we have Raj tonight, the three brothers. Now, as you know, there's been a lot of call-offs tonight, understandably because of COVID. But there's 4 travel agents I couldn't understand. They drove up here, saw his uniform, and shot straight back off the M8. Don't know why, but we'll find out. Raj is a high-profile commander in the Metropolitan Police, and he's recently been promoted as a chief superintendent in Hampshire. So, welcome, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you. Is my technology working? Fantastic. Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that means you are going to have to hear what I've got to say. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm sweating like a man from Edinburgh has realised it's his turn to buy the drinks, Gordon. And hasn't Glasgow changed? It's been an honour for me to speak in my home city. I mean, I know I sound like I'm from Birmingham, but actually I'm from Glasgow. Glasgow's changed and not changed at both the same time. When I say it's changed, can you get a bridie anywhere in Glasgow? I ask you that honestly, because I've been up and down Byres Road and Great Western Road looking like a numpty. You can get Cornish pasty, but you can't get a bridie. But it hasn't changed, because I went to a pub in Great Western Road and ordered a pint of McKeown's lager, and I said, can we put a wee bit of lime juice in that? And he goes, we don't do cocktails. So that to me reminded me that actually Glasgow hasn't changed. I want to say a few things before I go into the main body of the speech. First and foremost, I'll thank the pipe band for piping us all in. It was a really long route in, I have to say, because I swear to God I got signs for East Kilbride at one point till we turned left and said, come around here again. Then I think I thought the two young ladies from up north with the Highland dance was fantastic. So thank you very much. I've learned something new today, though. I thought the Scottish lilt was iron brew, but apparently it's a type of dance. I've been sitting next to Gail Gordon. Gail Gordon sounds like the pseudonym for a superhero. And she spent all evening saying, Raj, mention Mel Quinn, mention Mel Quinn. Mel Quinn also sounds like the name of a superhero. And apparently I'm supposed to, what did you write? Mel is the best boss I've ever worked with. Thank you in advance for letting me not work tomorrow and the 25% wage rise. So, ladies and gentlemen, apparently Clyde Travel Management is the best place to work. So look, why am I here? I mean, it's a really good question, why am I here? I think it's for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I don't charge for this gig. Janice, you'll be very, very pleased. I don't drink, much to my annoyance, because you're having a great time. But most importantly, Aman still retains compromising photographs of my stag do back in 1992. Aman, would you please let it go? I do find it ironic. Actually, Aman's name is pronounced Aman. I find it ironic we call him a man, because I can't think of anything further from the truth. So Aman decided, he says he wants a chief superintendent for this, this 100th anniversary. So you asked the chief superintendent that had the best physique that he knows and got a negative response. So he thought, The chief superintendent is the most intelligent, most articulate. Negative response. Chief superintendent who's the most funny person I know. Negative response. And Aman asks me, and I think, well, he's asked me 3 times already. He must really be desperate. And why have I been asked? Well, Aman has already intimated that I'm the 3rd of the trilogy. Now, those of you who've seen Godfather 3 know that's the worst film of the trilogy. So I think Aman's working his way through the Kohlis. He's had Sanjeev Kohli, he's had Hardeep Kohli, he's now got Raj Kohli, and I think you're trying to get your way to Virat Kohli, the Indian batsman, who just the other day put one over England. If there's anyone from England here, I think there's somebody from Birmingham over there. I'm really sorry, but India won. Now, despite being a police officer, I was actually vetted for this gig. Now, can you imagine? You've got Joanne here and Janice there, and they vetted me. And one of the first questions they asked me was, Raj, can you perform under pressure? I said, of course I can. I also do a mean version of Bohemian Rhapsody. And I was told no mention of football, no mention of religion, and no swearing. I know. I'm an East Fife supporter and a Buddhist. That's a bit pish. So now I do think that, and actually Gordon and Joanne both referenced, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope as we exit COVID into a new, brave new world. And Aman Kohli, and people don't know that Aman, translated from Punjabi to English, means hope. So I think it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Aman's name means hope. Unfortunately, Kohli means less, but enough about that. Now, I'm told there are media people in the room, and I await the inevitable Top Cop ruins SPAA 100th centenary anniversary dinner. But I implore you that when you spell my name, our name, you spell it properly, Kohli. It's misspelled all the time. An easy way to remember it stands for knockout, hot-looking Indian. And now, ladies, I think you'll see that is entirely obvious. Now, the reason why I'm sweating like a man from Edinburgh who has to buy a round of drinks is Joanne insisted that I wear a uniform. Although my wife believed your request that I wear quick-release Velcro on my trousers seemed wholly inappropriate. And I got a sneak, and for some reason, Joanne and Janice wanted to see my speech. Thank God they didn't, because I think I'd be out of here by now. I got a peek at Joanne's speech, and you know when she talked about addressing the haggis, she actually wrote, undress the haggis. And I thought, this is going to be a really interesting haggis. Joanne, sadly, I'm no H from Line of Duty, and I've signed the Official Secrets Act, so I can't tell you many stories. Although, if a brown envelope with £40,000 of used £20 notes and 2 first-class return tickets to Brazil happened to be in a brown envelope at reception under the name of John Smith, I could be persuaded. But I'll share some stories that I've either directly been involved in or know of people have been involved in. This first story, I was directly involved in. Now I'm looking around the room because there are probably some people that aren't even 30 years old yet. This is about 30 years ago. I was a brand new police officer in London. And we had, unfortunately, had a mentally ill man, and finding a bed for this man was really difficult. So I was charged with finding a bed for this man. So I rang around a few places, and lo and behold, there's a place 2 hours away. I spoke to this really nice doctor, Dr. Eric Jones. So I went to my sergeant, and I said, I've cracked it, but it's 2 hours away. And the sergeant says, Raj, not a problem, that's brilliant work. So me and Sergeant Chivers drove 2 hours up into the deepest, darkest Hertfordshire at 3 o'clock in the morning. The guard comes out, what are you doing here? We've got this patient that you said we could bring, and it's been sectioned, he needs to be here. The guard says, are you sure? I said, yeah, I spoke to Dr. Eric Jones. The guard goes, Dr. Eric Jones is one of our inpatients. He loves to answer the phone, and needless to say, I had to get the donuts back on the way to London. Another story, a couple of colleagues were investigating an incident, and they're walking up the driveway of its very well-to-do house in North London. There's a wee yappy dog barking away, but it's got quite aggressive actually. started biting one of my colleagues' legs, and quite vicious it was. And there's all this commotion, and this posh lady from the house just shouts out, "Kick his balls." So my colleague gave him a little kick in the appropriate area. Thing yelped, screamed, and ran away crying. The woman said, "I meant kick his tennis balls. That'll keep him busy and he'll stop you down." And my final story is, I mean, look, half the lies I tell aren't true. Okay, but my final story is that as with probationers, we used to like to scare them when we take them to the mortuary and play tricks on them. And there's one officer who loved playing tricks on people. And his trick was he'd go in 10 minutes before everyone else, go under the sheet, probationers come in, and as they're in this really scary mortuary, jump up and shout boo and scare the living daylights out of them. So he turns up 10 minutes early and he's sitting there. It's really cold in there. He's starting shivering away. Then the body next to him says, "It's bloody freezing in here, isn't it?" He didn't know we'd played a trick on him. He got up, fell off the trolley, broke his arm, broke his nose, off work for 6 weeks. You can imagine the statement I had to write for that one. But I guess the story that sticks in my mind is my first arrest for drink drive. And we stopped this car under the Road Traffic Act, and I said to the driver, "I require you to blow into this machine, see how much alcohol is in your system." And the man said, "I can't, I'm asthmatic, and I won't be able to blow." And that is actually a defense under law. If you can't blow, then you can't blow. So I said, "Okay, we require you to give a sample of blood so we can measure how much alcohol is in your system." And he said, "I have a pathological fear of needles. I will pass out, and so you can't take blood." I thought, right, we're in trouble here. I said, "Well, you're going to have to give a sample of urine so we can see how much alcohol is in your system." He said, "I can't do that either. I take so much medication for my epilepsy and asthma that any results you take will be rendered inadmissible." I said, "Well, you're going to have to get out of the car and walk in a straight line." He said, "I can't do that either." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because I'm pissed." But this is obviously a travel agent gig. I mean, this is not the secret policeman's ball. This is a travel agent. And I have been very lucky to travel. My dad is a great traveller. Not so much now, he's in his mid-80s, but a great traveller. And through Cody Travels, we've been to all sorts of amazing places. In fact, the last time me and my wife, who's on table 22, went to Kenya, that was about 2.5 years ago. We spent 3 weeks in Kenya. I went through 5 Jeffrey Archer books, which remind me, must take toilet paper next time. Now, and Gordon's referenced this, and, the internet, it's a great place, but, you're subject to people's reviews and feedback instantly about how their service has been. I want to read you, this is a true review. I want to see if anyone guesses where this is. Well, this got 4 stars out of 5. And the review was, "Ensuite facilities, own butler with tea, coffee, newspapers on demand." Although an upmarket, not minimalist decor, although the all-day breakfast wasn't quite to taste. Any ideas? The Crown Plaza? I beg you not. That was actually Grimsby Police Station. The detainee smuggled in a smartphone, took photographs and left a live review of Grimsby Police Station. Now, it turns out that EasyJet are quite jealous because they've never had 4 stars off anybody. Now, clearly, and again, it's been referenced, people haven't travelled, so people have saved money with this building extensions or DIY or doing up their garden. It reminds me of the story of a man. He's hitting his 40th birthday, and he says to his wife, "Darling, I'm going to be 40, and I know what I want for my birthday. I don't want expensive jewelry. I don't want expensive clothes. I don't want an expensive holiday. I want chest enlargement surgery. It's all I want because I go to the gym 5 times a week. It's not making a difference. I want chest enlargement surgery, and that's what I want for my 40th. The wife goes, "Are you sure?" He goes, "I don't want jewelry, don't want clothing, I don't want to travel abroad. I want this chest enlargement surgery. It's expensive, it'll cost £10,000, but that's all I want." The wife said, "Well, £10,000 is actually quite a lot of money." And he goes, "I know it is, but that's all I want." The wife said, "Well, I've heard there's a technique that if every night, just before you go to sleep, take some toilet paper, rub it between your chest, after 3 months, your chest will double in size. And he says, will that really work? And she replied, well, it worked on your arse, didn't it? So, Janice has just given me a look saying that's the second swear word that you've got. So I'm now banned from the 200th Centenary conversation. But I'll end you with this one story about how traveling led me directly, a man that's never liked dogs, into having 2 dogs. You're thinking, where on earth is he going with this story? Bear with me. So it's about 6 years ago. My wife and I and our 2 sons, they were late teens, early 20s. We're off to Cuba. I'm not sure if anyone's been to Cuba, but one of the deals is you can stay with a family. So we're staying with this family. They've got a 10-week-old black Labrador puppy, the cutest thing you ever did. We thought the Labrador's name was Pasha. We're calling him Pasha all the time. Apparently Pasha is Cuban for go away. We've no idea what. Anyway, so my sons are all over this dog. And I've had a couple of caipirinhas, and my wife said, oh, look, this is the boys with this 10-week-old black Labrador puppy. This must be what they might be like if they have children. It's a beautiful thing. And I said, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And my wife said, wouldn't it be nice if we got a dog? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm 2 caipirinhas in. I'm saying yes to everything. So I said, yeah, of course. And it's a wee bit like, I don't know, when you go on holiday and you meet someone from near where you live, and you say, oh, when we get back to Scotland, Glasgow, we must keep in touch. At that moment in time, you absolutely want to keep in touch. At that moment in time, I absolutely said yes to having a dog. Nothing more was said, got home. I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning off a night duty. I come home at 6 o'clock, slept for a couple of hours. My wife's wandering around the bedroom, making a racket as usual. And I said, what are you up to? And she said, me and the 2 boys were off to Slough to see an 8-week-old black Labrador puppy. And as I went back to sleep, I knew that in 4 hours' time when I woke up, there'd be an 8-week-old black Labrador puppy in my bedroom urinating on my uniform. I wish I could predict the lottery numbers, ladies and gentlemen, because at midday I woke up, there was an 8-week-old black Labrador puppy ruining my uniform. Now you're saying, but Raj, you promised us 2 dogs. Where is the second dog? I'll tell you where the second dog came from. And this is a salutary lesson to the men in this room. Always clear your browsing history on your laptop. My wife comes home onto Amazon.com or whatever it was, and she's looked at the browsing history and goes, Raj, why have you been Googling dogging? To which I've got to now think on my feet. I'm thinking, oh no, I was trying to stud Logan, our dog. Maybe we could get a second puppy. Ladies and gents, lack of deleting my browsing history means I've now got 2 Labrador puppies in the house. Currently urinating and destroying my uniform. But look, I'll end with some words here about the travel industry. Joanne said it eloquently. The biggest hit industry, but the one that people don't really talk about the most. Travel enriches you in a way that money never will. I miss going into travel agents, the smell of the new pamphlets. You get your pen out, you circle out where you're going to go, you fold the pages over in the catalogue. Someone like Aman or Joanne or Gail will say, oh, I've been to that place, I reckon we should go. It was a real deal. It was a thing. If you're going to go on holiday, it was part of the whole symbolism. Yourselves in the industry, forget COVID if you can. I've been fighting the internet for the 15 years previous to that, and you're still here in a really strong, meaningful way. And I think it's a sad thing that I can now sit on a laptop, delete my browsing history first, and book a holiday in 10 minutes without the real investment and the conversation with experts like yourself about where to go and how to best enjoy it. So I'm in a room full of remarkable people, but I know that if I wasn't in a limousine, you would be joining me on a bus, and I know that for a fact. So I just want to say, really well done for 100 years. I mean, it's a phenomenal achievement. I hadn't realized quite how phenomenal achievement it was, and it is. It will be around for another 100 years, as will most of my jokes this evening. I'll leave you this one last thought. When you go home tonight, to your loved ones, to your husband or your wife, your boyfriend or your partner, just sit them down and stare into the eyes for 15, 20 seconds. Just stare into the eyes of your partner for 15 or 20 seconds. in the knowledge that statistically they are most likely to kill you. Ladies and gents, if you enjoyed my speech, my name's been Raj Kohli. If you haven't, my name is Aman Kohli. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj, for that very entertaining speech. You did not disappoint. Could you please take this as a little token of our thanks for talking tonight? At dinner. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to give tonight's vote of thanks, would you please welcome from Global Marine Travel, Mike Tibbert.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my great pleasure to undertake the vote of thanks for our President and Chairman of the dinner this evening, Joanne Dewey. Joanne, as we have heard from you and others tonight, the last 2 years have been some of the most volatile within our industry, and I commend you on your leadership and indeed the stamina required to guide the association through these most challenging of times. This is indeed where an organisation like the SPAA leads by example and brings together the multiple strands of the industry to speak with one voice. And I hope that Jacqueline Dobson and myself can maintain the momentum that you have achieved over your presidency. I know that as the President, you have undertaken this role with passion, pride, and determination to get the right thing done for the industry as a whole. I recall notably, forgive me, Joanne, on one occasion when you told a BBC reporter outright, "I'm not going to argue with you." And you got the point of the industry plight across without interruption. It was a tour de force. My heart soared listening to that interview. It really, really emphasised how passionately you felt about the travel industry, and we should all be eternally grateful for Joanne for that. The SPAA is continuously evolving and improving the way it works with its members, associates, trade bodies and other stakeholders within the industry, including Holyrood and Westminster governments, and this has been a cornerstone of your successful tenure. I would like to thank you again on behalf of all concerned for your dedication, commitment and leadership throughout the last 2 years. So, on behalf of all those present, I would like to say a huge congratulations for chairing this evening so perfectly. Ladies and gentlemen, please charge your glasses and join in me with a toast to the Chairman. The Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. And now it's our pleasure to introduce the members of the Neilson and District Pipe Band from Renfrewshire. Although there was a pipe band in Paisley around 200 years ago, the present band was formed 51 years ago in 1970. Led by Pipe Major Russell Meehan, the band wears the Mackenzie kilt, the tartan of the Old Seaforth Highlanders, and Glasgow's own regiment, the Highland Light Infantry. So please give them a very warm SPAA welcome as they march on to Freddie Masson and Barbados Bells. that was, of course, the always popular Highland Cathedral. But now it's the turn of the drummers, who will be playing a drum salute under Drum Sergeant Kenny Walker. Well, our very grateful thanks indeed to the members of the Neilson and District Pipe Band from Renfrewshire.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the end of the formal part of tonight's proceedings, could I ask, please, all guests to be upstanding to join together in the traditional singing of Auld Lang Syne.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll tak a cup o' kindness yet for days of Auld Lang Syne. We twa here on about the braes and put the gowans fine, but we've wandered many a weary fet since days of Auld Lang Syne, and we twa he pedalled in the barn frae morning sun till dine, but seas between us braid he rode since days of Auld Lang Syne. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please pray silence while your president gives her the end of dinner remarks. Thank you.
I hope that you've all enjoyed the evening and look forward to seeing you all again next year when the dinner will be held in February again. The 24th of February to be exact, so get it in your diaries. But one last reminder, I hope to see many of you as possible through in the foyer for our after-dinner party. We always like a party in Scotland. This has thankfully been sponsored this year by Gold Medal, where later the customary bacon rolls will be served courtesy of DFDS. Your bacon roll can be washed down, of course, with complimentary beer and wines from Gold Medal from their after party. And you can have your own private dancing experience via the silent disco. This is allowing those who want to talk and those who want to dance the best of both worlds. So thank you again, and I hope you've enjoyed the evening, and hopefully we'll all be here again in February. Thank you so much.